This low-carb Tex-Mex meatball soup is a zesty southwestern dish with adobo peppers and red peppers featuring savory meatballs in a flavorful tomato-based broth. I used a little bit of low-carb noodles for this recipe. That's optional. Mine, I used the Kaizen noodles. I actually cooked the ZT noodles and I cut them in half to make small little tubes. But I only used a little bit. So for this recipe over medium heat, we're just going to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil and 1 tablespoon of butter. And then we're going to add a half diced onion. And we're going to let that cook down and soften until they become translucent. So give that a mix. Then I added a pinch of salt, about 1/4 teaspoon. Between a pinch and a 1/4 teaspoon. Not too much because the broth will have some salt in it as well once we add the chicken stock. So I gave that a stir. I let that sit for a while, and then I added the diced or minced garlic. I only used 2 garlic cloves here. You can use more if you want. I don't like too strong of a garlic flavor. I do like garlic, but not too strong. Again, we're going to give that a mix. You don't want the garlic to burn, so make sure your heat is on low. I then added the chili powder, which is 1 tablespoon of chili powder, and I like to cook my spices before I add anything else, just to get that sort of raw taste out of them. So always cook your spices. So I just mixed it around here, flavored up those onions and garlic with the chili powder, and then I added the one diced bell pepper. I used a red bell pepper here. You can use whatever color you wish. I prefer the red for this recipe as it's not too strong. It has sort of that sweet taste. And then I used adobo peppers that are in a can with sauce. So I added 2 adobo peppers here. You can add just 1 if you don't like it too spicy. 2 are really spicy, and I liked it. Like, my nose was running for days. Like, this is one of those soups that is really spicy. Really warm you up on a winter day, especially if you're not feeling well and you want to sweat out that cold. This is for you. But if you don't want it too spicy, just use 1 adobo pepper. I then added about a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper there. Again, I'm mixing it through, and then I added the diced tomatoes. So this was a 14-ounce can of diced tomatoes that I added. And again, I want to heat that through. Get those diced tomatoes nice and warm before we add anything else. So mix it through, make sure it's well combined. And here I added the chicken stock. So I used 2 cartons of chicken broth, and you can use chicken broth or beef broth here, whatever you prefer. I like the balance of the chicken broth with this soup, although if you like the more meaty flavors, you can add beef broth. I gave it a stir, and then I added the second carton of chicken broth to this recipe. And I let it simmer for about 10 minutes first, and then at the end I added a squeeze of lime from 1 full lime. So I squeezed the whole lime in there, and then I added about 20 meatballs. You can use store-bought or homemade. I do prefer homemade as there's less carbs in my homemade meatballs recipe. Again, you're going to give it a nice swirl. You're going to put the lid on and let it sit for about half an hour, let it simmer, and that's it. Then you're going to enjoy these meatballs, this Tex-Mex meatball soup with those noodles or not. It's up to you. Enjoy.